Good morning and welcome to Webinar Tuesday. My name is Mary Jo Williams and I'm the training coordinator for the Virgin Islands Small Business Development Center. Today's presenter is Mr. Wayne Huddleston and today's topic is COVID-19 program relief updates. But before we begin, let me share a little bit of information with you about the Virgin Islands Small Business Development Center.
Has your business been affected by COVID-19? The Virgin Islands Small Business Development Center is available to assist entrepreneurs and small businesses in the U.S. Virgin Islands. The SBDC is sustained by the University of the Virgin Islands and the U.S. Small Business Administration and collaborates with local agencies to support the small business community. The SBDC is nationally accredited and provides free consulting, business education training, and technical assistance. Attend workshops with subject matter experts from both the public and private sector. From idea generation to exit strategies, the staff at the SBDC is ready to assist you. Now is the time to contact them, so don't wait. Call or email them to find out how they can help your business grow and succeed.
¿Su negocio ha sido afectado por COVID-19? El Centro de Desarrollo de Pequeñas Empresas está disponible para ayudar a los empresarios en las Islas Vírgenes de los Estados Unidos. El SBDC es sostenido por la Universidad de las Islas Vírgenes y la Administración de Pequeñas Empresas de los Estados Unidos para apoyar a la comunidad de negocios pequeños. El SBDC está acreditado a nivel nacional y ofrece consultoría gratuita, educación empresarial y asistencia técnica. Asiste a talleres con expertos en la materia, tanto del sector público como del privado. Desde generaciones de ideas hasta estrategia de salida, el personal del SBDC está listo para ayudarlo. Ahora es el momento de contactarlos si necesita ayuda. Llame o envíe un correo electrónico para averiguar cómo puede ayudar a que su negocio crezca y tenga éxito.
Okay, welcome back to Webinar Tuesday. For those of you just joining us, my name is Mary Jo Williams. I'm the Network Training Coordinator for the Virgin Islands Small Business Development Center, and I'll be your moderator, facilitator for today's session. Our speaker today is Mr. Wayne Huddleston. He's the Senior Area Manager for the U.S. Small Business Administration, and his territory is the U.S. Virgin Islands. So he covers St. Thomas, St. John, and St. Croix. Wayne is a previous director of an SBDC. He's a veteran of the U.S. military. And best of all, he's our senior area manager. Wayne, I'll turn over to you.
All right. Thank you, Mary Jo. Thank you, SBDC, for continuing these programs every Tuesday to share information about SBA. This week, what I'd like to do is, instead of having a formal PowerPoint presentation on one particular topic to walk you through, I'd like to just overall cover where we are with the pandemic programs that are offered through SBA. I'd like to take you through our website because that is really the best place for the most up-to-date information. I'm going to take you through just an overview of the major programs that we are prioritizing right now to address the effects of the pandemic. And then I'd like to spend time answering your questions that you have on any one of our programs, whether it be PPP or EIDL or restaurant revitalization, no matter. But I want to give you just a short overview of those and then give you an opportunity to answer questions. I like this session to be a little bit more of an open forum where we discuss those programs and how they can be of assistance to you. So the first thing I'm going to do, let me share my screen real quick. Pull up the web page. Okay, so right here, this is the first page you see at sba.gov. We've really taken away everything else that are our major programs. Of course, we have everything listed up at the top. But the first thing you see is the COVID-19 relief options. That is what we are prioritizing most right now as an agency. So you would simply just click learn more on that. And I think the agency has these pretty well lined out. These are the 6 Well, the 5 big ones that we have as an agency: the Paycheck Protection Program, COVID-19 EIDL loan, which stands for Economic Injury Disaster Loan. Rolling out soon is the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, which I expect will be very popular with bars and restaurants. We also have a Shuttered Venues grant that is currently ongoing, and an SBA Debt Relief. I'm going to talk about the top 3 in a little bit more detail. I'm going to talk about the bottom 2, Shuttered Venues and Debt Relief, just a little bit so that you are aware of those. But let me first start with the Paycheck Protection Program, because that program will end soon. The deadline for that is May 31st. I know we've had deadlines in the past and those have been extended, but the likelihood of an extension diminishes significantly each time. So I'd be really surprised if they extend it beyond this. Of course, you never know what Congress is going to do. A lot of this is politically driven, but right now that deadline is May 31st. Right here. Now, even though it says that SBA offers this program up through May 31st, this program is driven by lenders. So lenders process the application. I expect that many lenders, prior to that May 31st deadline, will say they are no longer accepting applications. And so I highly encourage you, if you have not applied for your first draw PPP or your second draw PPP, and you are considering doing so, do not delay, do not wait, apply as soon as you can. Give lenders plenty of time to review your application, to get your documents in, and then upload that to SBA for approval. Because I anticipate many of them will start at least the week before saying they're no longer accepting any, and they're just going to make sure the ones they have in the queue are going to get processed up to SBA. So even though it says May 31st, and there will be some lenders who may take applications up through that date, don't count on the lender you're looking at doing that. You want to get it in now. So just to briefly cover what PPP is, the Paycheck Protection Program is a loan, but it is a forgivable loan that allows business owners to keep their employees on the payroll and cover some incidental expenses related to the pandemic. There are 2 types of PPP loans you can get. One is a first draw loan, and you can learn more about it here. That is simply a loan because you've never received a PPP loan. So it is what it says it is. It's a first draw. It's your first time receiving that loan. If you want to learn more about that loan, you can click here, get a little bit more details. These are loans, as I mentioned, and if you do not spend them in the way that they are intended to be spent, then they turn into a loan of a 1% interest rate, that it has a maturity of 2 to 5 years, but it is eligible for forgiveness. So no one should be taking a PPP loan with the intention of keeping that alone. You should be using that to cover your payroll costs, and then get that completely forgiven, because it could be free money. So you must spend a minimum of 60% of a PPP loan on your payroll costs, including your benefits. However, that is the absolute minimum. I highly encourage you, if you can spend 100% of that loan on your payroll costs, you should do so. If for some reason, because of your employee count has diminished significantly, and you had other expenses related to opening up your business, you can spend up to 40% of that loan on utilities, rent, mortgage, worker protection costs, and other things to keep your business afloat during this time. But that cannot exceed 40% and still be eligible for 100% forgiveness. This is open to just about every business out there: sole proprietors, independent contractors, nonprofit organizations, others out there. There are plenty of opportunities to apply for this. When you're interested in applying, as I mentioned before, you go through your lender. Every lender here, all of the 5 major lenders here in the Virgin Islands have been processing PPP loans. Popular, First Bank, Oriental, Merchants, and Bank of St. Croix are all doing it. You would apply directly through them. We have a sample of what that application form looks like on our site, but many of the lenders incorporate the aspects of that application form into their own application process. So I wouldn't necessarily suggest downloading this form and then taking it into a lender. but you should be aware of it. So you can get more information here. There's frequently asked questions. Most of your questions can be answered through this. There's an overview of the PPP program. I would suggest if you haven't applied and you're considering it, go to this page on our site, get a basic understanding of what PPP is, how it works, read this top line overview, and then visit your lender. Highly suggest you visit a lender that you already have a banking relationship with. If you don't have a banking relationship with someone here, or for some reason you prefer not to use a local lender, you can always use lenders anywhere in the United States. You can go to sba.gov/lender match and be paired with lenders. But it's what I really suggest though is if you have any existing relationship with a lender, whether it's your bank or your business account, or if you have a personal account, talk to those lenders first. It's easier typically to get a loan process through a lender that already knows you than the lender to whom you're a stranger. So a second draw PPP loan. A second draw is what it is. You're getting your second draw of a PPP loan. To qualify for that, you must have already expended or shown that you will expend all the funds in your first draw loan. You can't get a PPP loan and then the next week get another loan on top of it and then try to spend both of those funds down. You have to spend those down first. Typically, you cannot qualify to apply for a second draw PPP loan until your covered period, the minimum amount of time in your covered period has expired, which is typically 8 weeks. So the terms are a little bit different. As I mentioned before, you have to show that your first draw PPP loan has been fully spent or will be spent. You have to show that you have no more than 300 employees. And then a key aspect that is different from the first draw PPP loan is you must be able to demonstrate that you have had a 25% reduction in gross receipts between comparable quarters in 2019 and 2020. They must be the same quarter. It doesn't matter which quarter you use. You can use the first quarter, but if you're going to use the first quarter of 2019 to show how much money you made then, and then compare that to the first quarter of 2020, you can do that, but you can't compare the first quarter of 19 to the third quarter of 20. They have to be the same quarters. So as long as you can demonstrate a 25% reduction in gross receipts and show that in your application, then you're eligible for approval. Similar to the first draw PPP loan on our site, there is an application form. There's an overview of what that second draw PPP loan is. This FAQ, frequently asked questions document, is the same as the other one. But they both also have information on how to calculate your second draw loan so you can understand what that amount would be and what it looks like. Again, with same as with the PPP loan originally, I would highly suggest that if you are going for your second draw PPP loan, you stick with the lender that you've worked with before. Ideally, the one that you got your first draw loan from. You don't necessarily have to, but it certainly helps to do that. And I would just read through this information briefly and then go to your lender to discuss submitting that second draw application. Once you go through the PPP loan process, there is forgiveness. So once you finish your covered period, you can apply for forgiveness. Again, you do that directly with your lender. You do not do it through SBA. We have forgiveness forms. We have questions and answers on what forgiveness looks like and how to apply and what to apply. But simply, you contact your lender, you complete the forms that they tell you to complete, you put together your documentation. They're going to want to see proof that you used it on payroll and on eligible expenses for forgiveness. Again, use it all on payroll if you can, but if you can't and you need to use it on non-payroll costs, you're going to need to show, if you spend it on rent, you're going to have to show it on lease agreements. You're going to have to show how you spent on utilities or worker protection costs and so forth. And then submit that all to your lender. Your lender will pull that all together. They make the decision on that, and then they submit that to to SBA for approval. Once SBA provides its approval and agreement with what the lender says, then if it's a full 100% forgiveness, your lender will notify you and they will forgive your loan. We essentially pay that money to the lender to cover your loan, and your loan is completely forgiven. Before I move on from PPP, if you want to get more information, we have information about lenders. We have PPP data, which basically just shows how PPP is rolling out nationally. And there's a lot of good information on our site. So that's PPP. I'm going to cover EIDL here next. Economic Injury Disaster Loan. Economic Injury Disaster Loan is a loan we have through all disasters, but this one is specific for COVID-19 and covers the entire country. This is a loan. This is not forgivable. And I do not anticipate that this will ever be forgivable. However, the loan is under excellent terms. It is 3.75% for businesses, 2.75% for nonprofits. You can now get a maximum of up to $500,000. That depends on the revenue that you had shown in the past. Of course, if you were a business that showed very little revenue, you're not going to be able to get approved for a loan of that size. For those of you who may remember, there was a cap on this loan of $150,000. Last month, that cap was raised to $500,000. So businesses that had reached that cap of 150 and could not get any more during that time, strictly because of the cap that was in place, those businesses will be contacted by SBA and be invited to apply for more if they wish to. Again, it's a loan. It goes directly to you. You do not apply through a bank. You apply directly through SBA. The process is very simple. I highly recommend to you that if you apply for that loan and you receive approval, you put those funds in a separate account that's easy to monitor and easy to show how you spent those funds. And if you don't want it to, a lot of businesses are unsure if they want to take on the debt, especially during economic uncertainty times that we have right now. But you can take that loan, you can have it sit there. There is no need to start paying that loan anytime soon. In fact, it does not say it on, yeah, it says it right here. So if you were approved for a loan, no, it doesn't say right here, but I'll tell you, if you received an economic injury disaster loan in 2020, you have 18 months from the time you received that loan until your first payment is due. If you receive an economic injury disaster loan in 2021, you have a shorter period. If you got it in 2020, you have 24 months. So essentially 2 years. If you received it now, you have 18 months before that payment. So what I'm recommending to people is if you think you might need the money, but you're unsure about taking on that debt, and this is just personally Wayne speaking, I believe it would be very wise to get the approval and get those funds secured. You can set them aside in an account. If you don't need those funds, you can just return those to SBA. There is no penalty for doing so, no prepayment penalty. The only charge to you would be the small amount of interest that had accrued during that time. And for most business owners, that is a fee that is well worth the price of having that access to those funds should you need it. I believe we're coming out of the pandemic and economic conditions will improve, but you never know. We're not out of the woods yet, and it's not certain that we will be out of it anytime very soon, so who knows. So the deadline for this goes through the end of the year. So you have all year to make that decision if you wish. But again, I wouldn't wait till the end. If you think you might need that, go ahead and apply. If you've already received a loan, you cannot receive another one, but you can receive an increase if you reach the cap of $150,000. Now, I'm just going to briefly cover the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. That program is not open yet, and later this afternoon, SBDC is cooperating with the SBDC out of Georgia to provide an overview of what that legislation looks like. But to just provide you a general overview, this is it's technically not a grant. This is more of a forgivable type loan, similar to PPP, but you do not have to go through lenders. You go directly through SBA. SBA will provide these funds to you to help cover costs associated with COVID-19. And as long as you show at the end that you have spent those funds on the appropriate purposes, you don't have to pay anything back to SBA. You're not obligated to do so. There's a process in this. There's a lot of information on our site on how to apply. This is strictly for restaurants, bars, and other qualifying businesses. On our site, you can get more information. What I suggest you do, if you are a restaurant or a bar or a business that qualifies for this, you should read the program guide on our site. It's not very long. It's a little over 20 pages, but it will outline exactly who is eligible, how those funds are calculated depending on how long your business has been in business. An important thing to note is a lot of restaurants have taken out PPP funds. If you have received a PPP loan, those funds are deducted from the amount you are eligible to receive under the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. However, there's still many restaurants will find that as you go through the calculation formula, which is in here in the guide and others, you will see that there is still funds that you can receive through this fund. Now, again, this is not open yet for application. We expect the application portal will open soon. There is going to be a reserve period in the beginning set aside for owners of businesses that are in financially hurt areas. I'm trying to say the right word. It's let me open it up for you. Just one second. It says it in the guide. But there's a funding set aside for minority-owned businesses and those that are economically and socially disadvantaged. That will be for 3 weeks, and then it will open up to everyone. It's also a set aside for women-owned businesses and veteran-owned businesses during that 3-week period. Now, again, the portal is not open yet. I do expect within the next week or so that there will be a date announced of when that portal will be open. But it's not open yet. Highly encourage you to monitor this site. You can simply either go to sba.gov and then click the link that takes you to this page, or you can do sba.gov/RRF. It will take you directly to this page. Anytime there's new information released on this program, it will be updated here. Once it's open, there will be several ways you can apply. You can apply if you're a restaurant that uses a point of sale system. SBA is partnering with the majority of point of sale system providers out there so that you can apply directly through them. If you do not have a point of sale system that you're using or one that's not approved by SBA, you can apply simply through SBA directly. We will have a link on our website and you can do it there. And then of course you can, if for some reason you can't do it online, you can do it. There's a phone number you'll be able to call and you can submit documents through mail. I would try to avoid that at all costs if you can, but do it through your point of sale service or SBA. Again, date not announced, but we expect it will come out soon. We will advertise that through our resource partners, including the SBDC and others, so that you get that information. But again, I'm not going into detail on that. Later this afternoon, the Georgia SBDC and the local SBDC will take you through the legislation as it was written. And so we'll tell you how that program was intended to be done. It talks about the calculations more in there, a little bit more in depth, and they'll provide that information to you. So 2 other programs I want to touch upon just briefly, and then I want to answer any questions you may have. Shuttered Venues Grant. This is a program that provides a direct grant to venue operators. This includes movie theaters, theater producers, museum operators, other live venues, if there's like a community theater, those types of things are eligible for this grant. We cannot provide I really can't provide a ton of help on how to apply and what to do, but on our site, we have a lot of general information, an application checklist, a user guide, the portal to apply for this grant. If you are a venue and are eligible, is now open. It opened a little over a week ago, and through some problems with intense volume, it was shut down briefly. It was reopened again yesterday, and my understanding is that the application process is running smoothly now. So if you are a movie theater or a community theater and you meet the eligibility requirements for shuttered venues, apply through that. You can get more information on our site. Not a lot of those in the Virgin Islands, but there are a few. And then finally, Sba Debt Relief is a program only really for businesses that have already received an SBA guaranteed loan. And these are 7A loans, 504 loans, and microloans. You should know if you've received one of these loans in the past, these are not disaster loans. These are not for the same loans that you received during Maria or Irma or some other types of disasters. SBA automatically makes payments for you for a certain amount of time to your lenders. Your lender should notify you if you are receiving debt relief from SBA on these programs. If you are not, do not go through SBA on this, go through your lender. If you believe you had an SBA 7A guaranteed loan or a 504 loan or a micro loan that was guaranteed by one of the lenders, and you've been making your payments every month and you never received a notice from your lender of debt relief or a certain number of months where SBA was making those payments, then reach out to your lender, reference this program, and ask them why not. I have not come across any lender that has not implemented this program correctly, so it hasn't happened yet, but again, I just want to say, if you think you were entitled to some debt relief and you didn't get it, talk to your lender on those programs. So that's what I wanted to do today. I just want to cover a really basic overview of our programs, taking you through our site, because that's really the best place for information. I give these once a week, these updates, and answer questions, but oftentimes between now and next week, there's going to be new information coming out, but we always update it on our website. So I wanted to spend time today walking you through that. For now, though, what I'd like to do is just open it up to any questions that you have on any of the programs that I discussed. So let's see, I do see some things in chat.
Yeah, the first question is, will the lenders in the VI let you apply for PPP with them even if you don't bank there?
Depends on the lender. Most will. There was a time in the beginning where some lenders were saying you have to have an account with us. Then lenders said, no, come one, come all. Then there's some lenders now that are saying you must have a business bank account with us, not a personal bank account. It really depends on the lender. They can limit the amount of applications that are entering their queue by putting in those limitations. So it just depends.
Okay, if you are a sole proprietor, what is the best way to document that you paid yourself as a primary employee?
So you would just show that you spent the funds. So that's all you really have to do. So if you are a sole proprietor, you probably have your funds going into, if you either have a business checking account and then you draw down from that and you send it to a personal checking account, and you can just do that. You can have a business bank account, it goes there, and then you draw down to show that it's going to your personal account, and that's your payroll. Many sole proprietors, however, use their personal accounts also for their business accounts, which I do not recommend, but I understand that a lot of people do that. In that instance, you just want to show that you spent the same amount of funds that were put in for your payroll, to show that you spent them personally on your things as your payroll. But it's really just showing that it was spent.
Okay. Every bank I look at is no longer accepting applications. Someone mentioned applying to Cabbage. Are you familiar with this website?
Yes, Cabbage is an online, what we call fintech lender. And they have done loans here for Virgin Island businesses. So you can go online, they're legitimate. SBA has approved them as an authorized PPP lender. So you're welcome to go through Cabbage. Also encourage you to go through SBA Lender Match. Yeah, so anything that, if you find it on our site, it's going to be legitimate, but Cabbage is a legitimate PPP lender online.
Okay, I have a question, Wayne. So for people that are applying for the PPP, if they had a negative amount on their line third, if they're a sole proprietor, if they had a negative amount listed for their profit and loss, so, or zero amount, can they use their gross revenue to apply for the PPP?
No. So are you talking about for a first draw or second draw?
A first draw.
So you're using, So it just kind of depends on what you have. So you have to show what you made. So you can have a loss and still receive PPP funds. You just have to show that you had payroll. So you look at your gross revenue. Really what you're looking at in PPP is not your gross revenue amount. You're looking at what you paid in payroll. So a business could have a loss, could show that they were, let's say they made $100,000, but business that year cost them $105,000, and so they had a net loss of $5,000. A portion of that 100,000 was surely payroll, and so you'll just have to show what were your payroll costs during that time. Those payroll costs are multiplied times 2.5, and that is your authorized amount for PPP.
Okay, this next question, can you cover economically disadvantaged? I'm getting calls from people that attended RRF webinars and they believe the territory qualifies as economically disadvantaged. My understanding is this item is used for an individual business.
Yes, there are multiple definitions of economic disadvantage. So in this instance, for the Restaurant Revitalization Fund, it is on the individual, not the territory. So people may be familiar with the historically underutilized business zone, of which the entire territory is considered. There are opportunity zones. There are, for the purposes of our targeted idle advance, there are economically disadvantaged areas that are identified by the census, that are identified by income areas. That is, none of those apply to the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. What applies to Restaurant Revitalization Fund is the individual. So to qualify for that special period at the beginning, to apply, you either have to be a women-owned business, a veteran-owned business, and when I say women or veteran-owned, you must be at least 51% women or veteran-owned, and it can be a combination. So let's say, you know, a woman owns 30% of the business and a veteran owns another 30% individually. If the rest of the, you know, by themselves, if the rest of the business was not a veteran owned or women owned, they would not apply, would not count for that benefit. But combining them both, they own 60%, then that would count. So it's women, veteran owned businesses, and economically and socially disadvantaged business owners. And this is an individual designation, same with women and veteran. You must show economic and social disadvantage. Social disadvantage is presumed for members of minority groups. So if you are Black, Hispanic, Latino, Asian, you will qualify for the designation of social disadvantage. You can also qualify for a designation of social disadvantage if you're not one of those minority groups, if you can show through a preponderance of the evidence that you have been barred from gaining access to capital, growing your business based upon your ethnicity or racial prejudice against you. So social disadvantage is one, and these both have to be proved, and economic disadvantage, that you have been unable to access capital because of your particular position, you know, where you're located, the programs or things that have been done against you or your industry. So you'll have to show that. And I can go through the designations on our site. I suggest if you want to go into that more specifically, you would go to our website and you can get the definitions under the RRF program, and it'll give you the more precise definitions of what that is. However, for just simply looking at it, if you are a women-owned business, a veteran-owned business, or a minority-owned business here in the Virgin Islands, you will likely meet all that criteria. And so I encourage you to go ahead and apply. You self-designate in your application. You don't have to submit a bunch of information ahead of time. You self-designate that. Now, if later it is shown that you self-designated, for instance, as a woman-owned business, in order to apply early, and you were not a woman-owned business, then you will be required to pay those funds back to the federal government. But you will self-certify in the beginning.
Okay, for a nonprofit, how is credit score applied for an idle?
I'm not sure. You'll have to look at the, you'll just have to apply. They changed that designation. Even for individuals, it's very low. It's a very low bar to meet. What they typically look at is your financial statements. You're basically, if you're a nonprofit, you file every year a 990 form that shows your profit and loss as an entity, as an organization. They will largely use that to determine whether you are eligible for an EIDL loan and how much you'd be eligible for it.
I don't see any more questions. Does anybody have a question? And if you would like to ask it on air, you can raise your hand and we will recognize you. Can you repeat how long business owners have to spend the PPP first round?
Yes, you have anywhere between 8 and 24 weeks. So your covered period is, as I mentioned before, the amount of approval for your PPP loan is 2.5 months of your payroll. So you will have that approved as your 2019 payroll. So you'll have that as your loan amount. And then once you receive those funds, you have your covered period is 8 to 24 weeks. So after 8 weeks, if you've used all those funds and you can show that you spent it on the appropriate purposes, then you can apply for forgiveness. But it can be longer. It can be up to 24 weeks if you wish.
Can a person write from their business account a check to them personally as payroll to show that the payroll has been spent?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, just one caveat for that. You can do that, but I wouldn't do that if you never did that before. So if you in your application for the fund or for an EIDL loan, I'm sorry, for a PPP loan, you had to show your payroll. If in that payroll you never paid yourself in the past, and then all of a sudden you're paying yourself a big check, that's not gonna work. So, but yeah, you can cut a check directly from your account to yourself. You would just have to show that that's a normal payroll expense.
Will we be sent directions to apply for forgiveness once approved? Does that just need to be done sometime before it goes into repayment?
That's up to you. The lender may very well, many lenders are emailing PPP loan recipients when it's time for them to apply for forgiveness to let them know. But many lenders are not. Many lenders are overwhelmed and they're just taking in the applications right now. Every borrower should know when to apply for forgiveness. And it's really simple. It's when you've used those funds for the purpose that they were intended, anywhere between 8 and 24 weeks. So when you think you're ready to apply for forgiveness, look at I'd suggest looking at the directions again on our site, ensure that you can document that you've made those expenditures in the right way and you're ready to apply. I would pull your information together. Then I would contact the lender through which you received that loan and say, I'm ready to apply for forgiveness on this loan number. What is the process you want me to do it through you? And they may have a portal set up for their own forgiveness on it. But you'll go through the lender. I'd suggest you reach out to the lender. Do not wait on them to contact you.
Okay, can a business get a PPP loan for payroll and EIDL for other operational costs?
Yes.
Can you apply for more than one PPP loan?
Yes, but not at the same time. So you apply for your first, and then once you've gone through your covered period and shown that you have expended those funds in the manner that they were intended, then you can apply for your second. So typically a question comes is how quickly can you do that? If you didn't get a PPP loan last year and you're getting a loan this year, once you receive your loan, from the date that hits your account, you cannot apply for a second PPP loan for 8 weeks. because 8 weeks would be the shortest amount of time in that covered period. At the end of that 8 weeks, as long as you can show that you've spent those funds or will spend those funds the right way, then you could apply for a second PPP loan.
Okay. If anyone wants to ask a question on air, please raise your hands and we'll acknowledge you and unmute your mic. And if we don't have any more questions, well, while we're waiting for questions, let me give you guys a rundown on the upcoming SBDC webinar schedule. This afternoon, as Wayne stated, we do have a Restaurant Revitalization Fund webinar at 2 p.m. in collaboration with the University of Georgia Small Business Development Center. You must register. You can register at the SBDC website at visbdc.org or on our Facebook page. Tomorrow at 2 p.m., we have the second webinar in the series of our business development series, and that one is the fundamentals of business credit. That's at 2 p.m. On Thursday at 12 noon, we have the government contracting webinar series, and it's the VI Lunch and Learn, and we have identifying funds for government contracting and grants. That's at 12 noon. That's in collaboration with the Delegate to Congress office, Stacy Plaskett. Okay, and then next week, Tuesday, Wayne will be back with another webinar of great interest. And then Wednesday, we have Starting a Business in the Virgin Islands as part of the Business Development Series. And that takes us through the next 2 weeks. All right. Question: will businesses applying for EIDL loans now be eligible for the targeted EIDL advance?
Yes. That's my understanding.
Okay. And this is the first time EIDL that they're applying for?
Yes. We don't have many applications coming in for EIDL because I think a lot of the businesses already did receive it. But there are still some applications rolling through. Just to give you an idea of the volume we've had here in the Virgin Islands, we've had, there's approximately 1,750 EIDL loans were approved prior to December 31st. That program was extended for another year. Since December 31st and going through all of 2021, we maybe have had another 50 approved. I don't think we're quite at 50 approved for this year yet, but I think we're still under 1,800. So not that many have been done, but if you apply for it, the advance portion of that has been refunded by Congress, so that is available. So what we are doing now, we are providing advances to applicants on their EIDL loans, but also a targeted EIDL advance is a separate program, and that is targeted to people who did not receive those advances in the past when they were eligible. So that's a different program. You can get more information on that on our site. I see a question from you, Leslie. How long should a business wait to contact SBA after application submission for an EIDL if they do not hear back within a week? Certainly, I would not reach out to them within a week. I would wait 2 weeks. And if you don't hear anything at the beginning of that third week, I would call and find out what's going on. Of course, you can call at any time. 1-800-659-2955. Again, it's 1-800-659-2955. That is the disaster customer service line. If you have your application number in hand, anytime you call that number, you can find out where your application is in the process. It does take a little bit of time, so if we don't hear anything back within a week, that is not unusual. But afterwards, you can certainly just call and get an update on where that is.
Okay, well, if we don't have any more questions, we will allow you guys to get back to your busy days of doing all the things that you do. We want to thank Wayne for his information, and we want to thank you guys for being small business owners and being the backbone of the Virgin Islands economy as well as the U.S. economy. And on behalf of our state director, Mr. Ted Gutierrez, and the staff on St. Croix and St. Thomas, the Virgin Islands Small Business Development Center bids you guys adieu. Have a great day.
Thank you.